Hello, I'm Casey Aiken, and this is 21 This Week. Coming up next, there have been no COVID-19 deaths of school-aged children in Montgomery County, so why aren't the schools reopening? The County Council blasts County Chief Administrative Officer Andrew Kleine. Has the County Council taken the leadership role over from County Executive Mark Elrich? And who cares who Joe Biden chooses to be his vice presidential running mate? Well, apparently, a lot of people do. Our panel of experts will give you the story behind the story. We're joined by the former County Council member, Mike Knapp, Maryland Young Republican National Committeeman, Evan Young, Secretary of the Maryland Republican Central Committee, Mark Uncapher, and political strategist, Susan Heltemes. Stay tuned for these stories and more on the next 21 This Week. For more than a month, the three primary metrics regarding the coronavirus cases, that being COVID-19 hospitalizations, ICU hospitalizations, and the percentage of ventilators in use, has been declining in Montgomery County. In addition, the latest data show that since the coronavirus came to America, that there have been no deaths in Montgomery County of school-aged children 1 to 17 years of age. Nonetheless, MCPS refuses to reopen the schools for in-classroom learning because it's not safe. Mark, once again, the question remains, why won't MCPS allow in-classroom participation since the data suggests that there is little risk to them, to the children anyway, in doing so?
Well, in a simple two-word answer, it's the teachers union. The Montgomery County Education Association has opposed and has pushed back. And while there was a preliminary plan to partially reopen the schools, MCPS has reversed that. And in doing so, they've really gone against the guidance that came from the CDC and also professional groups like the American Academy of Pediatricians.
But at what point will parents begin to realize that they're not following the science, that they're really just following a political agenda?
Well, I think there's already a substantial amount of pushback. I think there's a recognition that while the schools may not be available to open for everyone, there are measured responses that would allow for the schools to partially reopen. And there are teachers, from the data that the MCPS collected, who are prepared to go into school and to teach in person.
Susan, what has to happen before MCPS will open the schools? I mean, this seems, it's recognized that there is a need for students to be in school, in classroom, and with their peers.
The issue, it comes down to some basic facts. First of all, children aged 10 and up are able to transmit the disease just like adults. And we seem to forget that kids who come into schools go home to grandmas and grandpas and parents. And what's most interesting is we seem to forget that the teachers, the para-educators, the librarians, the janitors, all of those, they're adults. And this is a deadly disease. The positivity rate in the county is 3.6 as of today, and 2 more people died in the county yesterday. And the school board works with the state and with the health officers. And as best I know, I don't think there are any school systems opening in Montgomery County. And, the president goes around saying, schools should open. Well, his own son's school is not opening. It is not.
We'll have to take him out of that lousy school and send him someplace that will allow in-room participation. But I recognize that adults are in the school system, but isn't it a fact that there's risk in life, and you have to, if your job and your mission is to educate, you're not doing your job, and you're getting all this money from the taxpayers. You're getting trillions of dollars a year from the taxpayers and not doing anything.
Casey, they are doing something, but there was a very telling story
How do you teach a first grader, Susan, on a computer?
I will just
You
want
can't
to
do
say
it.
that in Fairfax County, the one of the school board members asked the health director, will people die? And he said, undoubtedly, yes, people are going to die. And in Oklahoma, it was either Oklahoma or North Carolina, a small school district opened a few weeks ago just to see how it would work. They had to close down after a week because of people getting sick.
Look, you
Just
can
watch
cherry
the
pick
baseball
the
team
data
and
all you want, Susan.
Brett,
The fact that you could pick Sweden, which has been a tremendous success, and they never shut down anything.
but
We got to go on to other things. And Mike, you've been very quiet here. I noticed you've been keeping very quiet and out of the fray. But changing gears to look at the county council and what they've been doing over the past several months, there seems to be a rift between the council and county executive Mark Elrich on just the direction that the county is taking. And this, no more better evidence than on this Tuesday, the council blasted the county's chief administrative officer, Andrew Kleine, over the appearance of a conflict of interest. What is the backstory between this tension between the council and the chief executive?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think honestly, there's really a frustration between the council or with the council over the county executive with a lack of vision. I don't think there's any clear direction that the county executive is currently taking this. And I think as a result of that, the council is seeing that void of leadership and is trying to step in and take an active role. And then when they try to do that, his team is not collaborating. And so you're ending up with a real mishmash of activities taking place. And then honestly, there's a lack of operational leadership and just how are things being transmitted? How are things being run day to day? And I think once you step back and then look, it wasn't as though it actually was a validated ethical lapse on the part of the CAO. And when you look at the CAO, which is the position, it's the top government professional. So this is the person everybody else, all 8,000 employees are looking to for their guidance and the structure of how we're supposed to be doing things. To actually have the ethical lapse that he did, and the fact that operationally things aren't running well anyway, you put all that together and you go, well, how are we actually going to operate a government? You guys are in charge. We can't figure out where you're going. We're not sure who's in charge. And the people who are in charge are making pretty poor personal and ethical decisions. And so how are things getting done? And so I think as you look at that, the council is trying to play a more active role. And candidly, that's a really hard thing for a legislative body to do. It's really hard to run a county by legislation, by a legislation and a legislative body.
Absolutely. It's very difficult. And you think there would be greater guidance coming out of the executive's office. Anybody else want to chime in on this topic?
I want to just throw in that Fariba Kassiri, the assistant CIO, has sent out a memo to all county governments saying that county monies can no longer be spent on the CAO's book. And there is a lot of talk still going on. I don't think this issue is resolved yet because there is a thought that there should have been some time when he was put on administrative leave. And I think the community is beginning to talk about this. And I think that there is going to be more to this story in the coming weeks.
Well, the scary thing is the fact that there actually has to be a memo saying that is really disconcerting. I can't think of a CAO that we've had in Montgomery County before that would have required a memo. That would have been a pretty clear mandate. Everyone would have known that we don't use county tax dollars to reimburse a county employee.
Well, it's probably worth explaining too. What happened is that across the county government, departments and individuals were buying the book at the county expense to find out what their chief administrative officer was talking about and what he was interested in. Obviously, that's part of this whole scandal, is that the county was basically paying for lots of copies of this book in order to allow that.
I'll just throw in, we do have elections every 4 years, and all of these people answer to the people elected when it trickles up. So, we'll see if there's just people being angry now, knowing that there's nothing that's really going to happen, or if this can actually translate to people still being angry when an election comes up and they can actually go do something about it and change the people that are in charge of everything that they say might not be working the way it should right now.
Are you announcing your candidacy there, Evan?
Not with these districts, which is why you should actually sign the 9 district Promoco petition.
So,
Evan,
Sue,
Evan, now you know how Democrats feel about money going to Donald Trump all the time at his hotels.
Susan, why can you never talk about anything
Susan,
without talking about Donald Trump? Donald Trump
we
is
have
not
to
elected
we have
in
to stay
Montgomery County.
on, Susan, we got to stay on message here. And we're talking about the county council, who has urged Governor Hogan to extend the eviction prohibition and moratorium for people who have been negatively impacted by COVID-19. Is this a good deal? Because there is a collateral damage effect involved here. The landlords who own these buildings can't pay their mortgages, and they get in trouble with their lenders. So is this a good idea?
Are you asking me?
I did.
Yes, okay, well,
That's what the
the
script says.
governor has, as of yesterday, stated that losing your job because of COVID is the reason that you can go into court and you will not be evicted. So you can evict a lot of people, but then our homeless rate will go up, and it is, it has a mushroom effect of growing and growing and growing. So you can't very well say, okay, we're going to kick you out. That puts even more strain on the system. So the county has put some more money into the pot to help with paying rent, and that's a good thing.
I'll just chime in an opinion I have here.
Can't pay his mortgage.
I was just going to chime in that while you have businesses that the government is telling can't operate like they should, and the government's responsible for businesses not being able to pay employees or bring in revenue, at the same time, you also have to make sure that you don't allow people to be evicted because of the businesses you shut down.
Casey, I'm willing to bet that the county will expect real estate property taxes to be paid this year.
Well,
by those landlords.
They have a mechanism for that. It's called the tax sale.
Yes.
And the list goes out March 1st of every year, and the tax sale is held on May 1st every year. So there is a mechanism for that. But Mike, I want to go to you now. The county, even before the death of George Floyd, has been very active on changing the county's criminal justice system. This week, it appointed the members to the new Policing Advisory Commission that was created. And it also, the council this week, proposed and passed a bill to limit police excessive use of force. Is the county doing the right thing, or are they overreaching in reaction to recent public events?
Well, I think every community is rightly going back and looking at how they as a community want to implement policing. And so I think Montgomery County should be doing that. And I think the questions that the council asking are reasonable questions. My bigger concern is that it's incidents in isolation. And I think if you look at all of the things we require police officers to do and police departments to do, I don't think we've ever been very clear on how we're actually getting there and what we really want them to do. And so I think if you're going to start having a conversation about policing, let's step back and say, what do we want our police departments to do? And then how do we want them to do it? And then provide the resources to actually train them to do it, what we're expecting them to do. And I think that unfortunately, many communities are picking singular items and saying we're going to change these things, and then not providing the resources to go back and train the officers to say, this is the new direction we want you to go. They're just saying, don't do these things anymore. And they've got thousands of officers who don't necessarily take that different direction because they haven't trained them how to do it.
Well, I'm worried exactly for that very reason about training. We've had an exemplary county police force, and the desire to broaden their mandate, but also at the same time limit what they're able to, the tools they're able to use, is of great concern. Anybody have anything to add on that?
Well, I would look broader than just the county, and I think it's worth looking at the entire state. And sort of a modest proposal that I would have, again, many of the practices that are the most objectionable are not legal practices. One of the problems I think we have is that when an officer in this state is found to have violated their rules, their administrative proceedings, the record is kept confidentiality. It's kept confidential because of their employee status. I think that's something the legislature ought to take a look at. Again, not unverified complaints, but where there are complaints that have been determined to be legitimate, there ought to be more public accountability about it. Again, that's something not that the county could do, but that would have to be done statewide by the legislature.
That is also being thrown into
More
federal
second
legislation, I
guessing of the
believe,
police,
too,
Mark?
now.
Sorry?
Doesn't that just lead to more second guessing of the police?
Well, no, I mean, there are administrative proceedings. What we're doing, we're saying if an officer has been found to have violated practices, policies, then that can be, I think it's a balancing act. I don't think you want to make unsubstantiated complaints public, but I think these are ones that the public has a right to know.
Susan, real quick, I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, that is being added in federal legislation, it's my understanding.
Well, it would be, the issue, of course, it's the Maryland Public Information Act that would have to be changed. But yes, I understand the spirit of that is reflected in federal legislation as well.
All right. So, Evan, we only have 30 seconds left. So I'm sure you're quite relieved that we don't have much time for this question, which is, should the state change Maryland, My Maryland as the state song?
Absolutely. It's time that we have a state song that is inclusive and representative of everybody and the great things we've done in this state, which is why it's a perfect time to acknowledge our history, honor our history, and change the state song to Hail to the Redskins.
I knew there was a detour there somewhere.
You took a right turn on me there, buddy. All right. Who should be Joe Biden's running mate? Our panel will give you their predictions when we come back from this short break. Stay tuned. And welcome back. There's been a lot of speculation of late as to whom former Vice President and presumptive Democratic Party presidential nominee Joe Biden will choose as his running mate. Just yesterday, Politico went to press with a prediction that his running mate had already been picked on August 1st. And lo and behold, it's 3 days early. So let's see who the panel thinks should be Joe Biden's running mate. Mike, who do you favor?
I would either go for Kamala Harris or Val Demings. I think each of them bring a level of experience that would be interesting to supplement what he brings to the top of the ticket.
And Susan, who do you think should be the nominee?
Well, hopefully I'm going to be better at picking this than I was with the presidential candidate this year. But I'm beginning to think that Susan Rice would be best. Our foreign affairs are a total disaster at the moment. And that would allow President Biden to stay stateside, get stuff done here. And Susan Rice has the experience to go and work with leaders around the world to clean up the mess of where we are right now.
Well, that's an interesting choice. Mark Uncapher, who do you favor?
It's actually funny. I am not sure who I want to be. I don't think Mike Pence is in the mix. But I would agree. I think the most likely choice is Susan Rice, but not for the reasons that Susan described. I think the primary reason I think she'll be chosen is because she, of all the candidates in consideration, is the one who is most personally familiar to Biden, and they have a very good personal relationship. And I think that's a dimension that's particularly important to the vice president, the nominee. And the other candidates really don't have that connection with her.
And Evan,
I concur. Absolutely.
Suitable choice.
So I've actually been scouring the dark web to try to see who Antifa is pushing through the vetting process for this. And while I haven't found anything, we all know that Joe Biden is not going to be the one who's actually choosing who his vice president is. It'll be the radical left. It'll be the DNC. It'll be the Molotov throwing cocktail hurlers who are choosing, because they're going to need someone who, one, knows where they are on any given day, and that's not Joe Biden. And two, someone who might still be around here for the entirety of the term. That we don't know if that's Joe Biden. So they're going to pick someone that's not going to be vice president, but who they can hopefully actually will end up being president before his term is over. Just don't know who that's going to be.
No guess.
No. I don't know. Probably somebody that has been bailed out of a Minnesota riot lately. They'll pick the one with the strongest arm.
You know what I think has always been axiomatic and true from every election for many decades is that the vice presidential nominee and candidate really doesn't change the election dynamics very much, except this year, I think. And speaking just as an observer, not as in a partisan way. I mean, since the Republicans are trying to make an issue of Vice President Biden's mental competency, and there are allegations that they have made that the vice presidential nominee will eventually take over. The choice that Vice President Biden makes is probably one that's more crucial and more impactful than any that I've seen in many, many years. You got about 30 seconds if anybody wants to.
I was just going to agree with that.
That the Republicans are talking about Joe Biden's state of mind when we look at the man who's in the White House now. And I just think that is a bogus complaint on their side. And I'm just fighting myself because there's so much more to say.
Evan, can you wrap it up? You got 20.
I was just going to agree with you, Casey. No one voted for Trump really because of Mike Pence. No one voted for Hillary because of Tim Kaine. But people will be voting for Joe Biden because of who their vice president choice is.
Well, we're going to wait and see. And by the way, everyone, we're going to go to break in a few seconds to our parting shots. And when we come back, these will be the final parting shots before our August vacation. Stay tuned.
Oh.
And we're back, and with parting shots, Mike Knapp.
I just wanted to call out a new initiative in Montgomery County, the Montgomery County Food Security Fund. That is a public-private partnership that was begun late last month. We've got tens of thousands of residents in Montgomery County who struggle to provide food for themselves and their family. And this was a way between the community foundation, our business community, and the public sector to really ensure that resources are there to help them overcome these challenging times. And in particular, in the Up County, we have the Up County Food Hub at Black Rock Center for the Arts, which has taken the time to serve nearly 60,000 families. And so it's just good to see communities coming together to address those concerns within the community.
Thank you, Mike. What a great thought. Mark Uncapher, your parting shot.
Sure. We talked about this a little before, the Montgomery County Public School System's decision about the fall, but I wanted to underscore the fact that what this demonstrates, the failure to open, is that one size fits all education is really not the approach that we can afford to do. We need to be prepared to provide a range of alternatives, both on and in person, and to reflect the diversity of frankly, the position in which families are in this environment. And having a single lockdown decision was really inappropriate for a school system that is so large.
Thank you, Mark. Evan, your parting shot.
I just want to talk about a troubling trend I'm seeing among people my age on social media, cheering on the riots, cheering on the destruction. Yeah, burn it all down. Yeah, go smashing windows. They celebrate seeing these photos, knowing full well that they would never pick up a brick themselves and probably don't have the upper body strength to even throw one if they did. So while they cheer on what other people should be doing and cheering on the destruction, while they live very comfortably in the suburbs, knowing that they would never actually participate in it themselves, I just call on everyone to either be about that life or just shut up.
Thank you, Evan. Susan Heltemes, your parting shot.
Today is a funeral for former Congressman John Lewis, who is an icon and was loved and revered. I have learned across both sides of the aisle in Washington. He was a good and decent man. I had the pleasure of meeting him once, and in your presence, I was just awed by his goodness and his kindness. He almost got killed during the march over the Selma Bridge, but he came back and he fought, and he said, get into trouble, but be good trouble. And we all need to do that. Stay engaged, stay involved, and do good trouble. May he rest in peace.
Thank you, Susan. I want to thank the panel for being here this week. I want to send out premature birthday wishes to Susan Heltemes, whose birthday is next week. Happy birthday, Susan.
Thanks.
And I want to thank the panel for being here. And as I alluded to when we were coming to break, we're going on vacation in August like we do every year because we're French. And I hope everybody enjoys their time off, and we'll see us when we come back in 3 weeks. For 21 This Week, I'm Casey Aiken.